The thing is, I got this job.
Now, this is not complicated work, but it has to be done just right.
Well, mostly involved driving. And, picking up this reptile.
Clark, what is this job?
It's the opportunity of a lifetime.
Clark, you know how big this is?
Whether Clark Kellogg wants it
I'll quit the job tomorrow.
or not.
Impossibility.
What is the deal, please?
The Freshman, rated PG.
Hello and welcome back to Almost Cult Classics, the podcast. My name is Joe Ramone, and I'm sitting here with my friend and co-host Ryan Lancello.
Howdy, folks.
And today we're discussing a movie from 1990 called The Freshman, which I picked for us to do because you picked basketball. So
indeed.
I figured it was my turn to make you suffer, perhaps. You did say you have some spicy takes going into this.
Maybe not so much for The Freshman, but for some another Brando picture. But,
Okay.
First, apologies for the belated episode.
Yeah.
We inadvertently took a small summer hiatus
Yeah,
there.
summer's always a little bit difficult for us to
but,
get and record, but
I do want to thank you for bailing me out, and obviously the Patreon funds.
That's right. They went to a good cause.
No, but I don't know if I'd ever even heard of this movie. And it's kind of funny to think that because, you know, Brando's playing a Don Corleone, like almost literally
Right.
inspired by it. And
The way the character looks, the way he sounds, he's obviously a bit heavier.
yeah, but this is what made me nervous when you picked it. I'm like, I haven't heard of this movie. I'm like, that's not a good sign.
We've talked about that. Usually it's like if you have never heard of a movie, it just means there's nothing to talk about. It's just really bad.
Not my favorite film.
No?
No. No.
So I have an interesting relationship with this movie. This was like growing up, my dad always loved this movie.
I can see this being a dad type movie.
Yeah.
It's almost like my dad liked Wise Guys.
Right.
And I saw it. I'm like, this sucks. And
Yeah.
I watched it again. I liked it, but
I remember this was one of the first ones we got with the Netflix DVD subscription service, which I think just ended or is ending this week.
they were still doing that.
They were still doing it, yeah. This was like, but I had seen it. This was constantly on those movie channels growing up. Always on like, remember, I don't know if it's around anymore. There was one called The Movie Channel. I don't know if it was part of Encore. I don't think Encore is a thing anymore either.
I remember the movie channel.
But it was, I mean, constantly on that HBO comedy. It was always showing this movie. And I, as a kid, I remember just enjoying it because it was, you know, it was Matthew Broderick, who I've always liked. And I didn't really kind of get the Godfather connection because I hadn't seen Godfather at that point. The movie, to me, then really didn't make much sense. And today, watching it, yeah, it didn't make much sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. That being said, I have always really been fond of this movie. There's a few actors in it that I think elevate the material enough that there's some great scenes in it strung together.
Yeah.
It's largely, the plot is just, it really, when it comes down to it, doesn't make very much sense at all. And I thought that maybe I just didn't understand it when I was a kid, and I'll rewatch it now, and it's the same thing. I'm like, they kind of explain it at the end, but you're just like, okay, that didn't make much.
I was enormously frustrated at the whole movie because I'm like, all right, what's going on here? Like, he's obviously getting taken for a ride, and we'll get into the plot and stuff, but
Sure.
I'm like, all right, like, it became very clear that in the last fucking minute of this film, they're going to be like, oh, by the way, this is this, and this, and this. This is
Right.
why we're doing that. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not satisfying. That's not, and then, of course, what's he going to do? He goes, oh, okay, oopsie, I guess.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot where it's like, because again, we'll talk about when we get to it, but the movie is Matthew Broderick's character is a naive college student who's kind of getting taken advantage of by these, quote, mafia people that they're acting like they're businessmen, but it's a ploy that's tied into his family that they specifically targeted him, and it really just, when you lay it all out, it doesn't make very much sense. I'm willing to forgive that because there are some really, I think, fun scenes in this. I love the film school stuff in this movie.
With Paul Benedict?
Yeah.
He is funny.
It's a lot.
He is good.
You and I are almost film school graduates, so there's a lot to relate to there for me. But yeah, it's, as far as the plot goes, it's not very sensical, which is, it's odd because Andrew Bergman, who's the writer-director here, is a, you know, career comedy writer, director. He's written some really great comedy films. Blazing Saddles was one of the, I think the script might have been his original script that then Mel Brooks came on and they rewrote that.
Tex X?
Yeah, it was like
what it was
Black
called?
Bart. It was going to be, there was a lot of, so I don't know, you know.
By the way, I didn't realize you got fucking copywritten strike by who?
There was just some, back when I was doing my early Hats Off, I wasn't that, you know,
If you're not aware,
diligent about what music I was using and that
Gotcha.
type of thing. And
Joe did a video for the pilot for the Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles pilot, Black Bart.
Yeah.
Film urban legend that there was like multiple episodes shot that
Right.
never saw the light of day, which I don't.
So is it not on your channel anymore?
It's not. I have it somewhere. I just was
Okay.
not great at backing up my work.
I
at
really
that
like
point.
that. That was a good video.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But yeah, Andrew Bergman also wrote The In-Laws, which I know you saw for the first time recently. That's a film I'm really fond of.
It's really funny, and quite frankly, he's not very good with plot.
No, same thing with The
In the
In-Laws. It
sense
kind of
of
like
just nonsensical. But dude, if Peter Falk and Alan Arkin don't carry a movie, those two are like, perfect together.
well, it's funny you say that because he did attempt to do a follow-up with them, Big Trouble, which didn't have nearly the critical accolades that The In-Laws had. So it just shows you that it's more than just cast chemistry that makes a movie. You have to have a really good script. You have to have really tight. And it's, again, on Patreon, patreon.com/almostcultclassics, we're going to talk about another movie he wrote, Fletch, which very tight, very, again, nonsensical. That's from the book. It just doesn't make like you're saying. There's these like high concept crime films where coincidence plays just a huge part, and you have to turn your brain off and be like, yeah, this what is it? Just luck that these events happen the way they do.
Sometimes I don't know, man. It is really is your mood when you're watching a movie.
Sure.
Sometimes if you're not in the mood for certain things, it's just not going to click. And I am totally willing to turn my brain off, all that bullshit. But just anymore, man. I guess it's because you're getting older. Time is precious, and I'm like, when I'm 45 minutes into a movie and I can tell I'm like, this is not doing it for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, motherfucker. Like I get pissed, and then
Right.
you're just stewing.
You're
I'm
invested in
I'm
that point.
seething
Yeah.
for the rest of the film.
You're like that interview I sent you with Brando when he was on set. And did you read that? I sent it to you. He was like, he said the movie was going to be a turkey and it was going to be one of the worst bombs of his career because he was just like having a bad mood. And then he redacted all of it.
Well, because they paid him.
Yeah.
They wanted money.
Yeah, there is some. So Andrew Bergman was on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, talked a bit about this. I tried to find as much as I could about it because there's just nothing on this movie.
Right.
And God, he's got some great fucking Brando stories. Just seemed to really enjoy just fucking with Hollywood. And I think that's kind of refreshing about him was just how he saw the phoniness of Hollywood for what it was.
It's funny. It's
and
very.
was willing to just completely destroy his own career at that point just to fuck with people.
I really respect people, and you know what's funny? It's generally people I don't agree with, either politically or socially, but anyone who just goes "fuck you,"
Right.
like I don't care. I gotta respect them for that, and it generally is people I don't agree with. Like,
Yeah.
so great. I mean,
And we'll
good
talk
for
a little
you.
bit about that Larry King interview he did, which I think is
So funny.
94, which starts off in a great way where I guess he had some biography ghost written. I highly doubt he wrote that book himself.
Oh yeah.
And
was it songs my mother taught me?
Yeah.
It's funny. Didn't what was Obama's stupid book, Dreams from My
oh
Father,
yeah,
or
something like that.
Ugh.
It's the same writer maybe.
Yeah, bro.
Well, it was really funny because
There's no way he wrote that book, Brando.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, and Larry King's like, you're here, and you're doing. Why did you grant me the permission to do this one interview? Did you want to talk about it? And he's just like, it was in the contract. Like,
Money.
yeah, he says, I didn't know. They made the deal. It was in the contract, so here I am talking about it. He's barefoot during the interview. At one point,
He looks like an egg.
yeah, he claims he did his own makeup, and he was pissed that Larry King's people wanted to put on more makeup on him. And then at one point he like puts a towel over Larry King's head. They talk about nothing. There's nothing really it's that famous interview where he did get into some hot water because he had some things to say about race and Jews and
Jews in Hollywood.
Yeah. But it's beyond that. It's just like Larry King keeps trying to steer it back to talking about career and acting. What do you think acting? And he is just.
Well, that's one thing too I really respect because he basically even says it too. He's just like, if anyone knows their history, I mean, in Rome, the actor was below the whore. Like,
Right.
It's not respectable, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't find I can appreciate good acting, but it's not admirable or anything. Like, it's incredible to me. He's such a good example of how we elevate these people into like, you need to be this, or you need to be this for us, or do that for us. It's like they read fucking lines off a page.
Right. He says that as much in that Larry King's like, what does it take to be a good actor? And he's just like, everyone's an actor.
He's like,
you're always acting. Like,
Yeah, you've all
you
felt.
just gotta channel that into.
You have no feeling that Marlon Brando hasn't felt. You know what I mean? It's nothing.
Right.
It's all the same bullshit. But
Well, he was kind of raised in New York, and Adler was at his acting
Stella
teacher.
Adler, yeah.
I think she was instrumental in teaching him how to like channel that. And that was his whole thing about acting was that
Look, he's a good actor. I'm not.
Right, yeah.
I'm not. Let me put it this way. And this is another thing I think as you get older, I'm just not impressed.
Right.
Like I'm like, okay, good, cool, that was good. I'm not impressed by it. I'm more impressed by a plumber. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
that's impressive.
Well, I think this is his last good film role, because he does Apocalypse Now in '79, The Formula in '80, A Dry White Season is '89, and then this is '90, and then following this, it's Christopher Columbus: The Discovery, which is a huge bomb. Don Juan DeMarco, which I've never seen, so I can't say, but
haven't seen it.
Then Divine Rapture, The Island of Dr. Moreau, which is obviously a huge...
Yeah, we should probably come back to that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to talk about Richard Stanley.
The Brave, which is a film Johnny Depp directed, and Free Money, and then The Score, which... Did you end up watching The Score?
I didn't, but
Yeah.
I think he's not really in it that much.
No, I mean, you can watch his clips online. He's just enormous, and he's got, like...
I heard it's a pretty good movie. I just didn't get the time to check it out.
So it's interesting to see how his career... Again, it's weird that, like, he did Apocalypse Now, and then just took kind of a... After that, he did that movie in '80, and then just took the decade off. He kind of... I think when they filmed Mutiny on the Bounty, he bought up some islands in Tahiti for, like, an insanely cheap price.
Smart.
And he just lived down there and would have people come and meet him. Apparently, he didn't even like living there. He just liked the idea of he had this island. It was like this mythic figure.
I can dig it.
I heard Andrew Bergman talking about it, where he had like 12 phones and he didn't answer any of them. But there was one that had he gave him a code, like, if you need me, say Tuna Fish 1. And if you want me to call you back, say Tuna Fish 2. Like, all these crazy, like, hurdles he made people go through to get in touch with him just to... Again, I think fuck with them, like, and he knew he could.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Like, that's fun. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Like, what do you be? I'm going to be a respectable actor for the rest. That's going to be my legacy. No, fuck that. Like,
Yeah.
who cares? So on that note, though, before we get into this movie, I did text you. I said I might have a very spicy take for this episode.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let me watch some old Brando, like the classics I haven't seen. So I'm like, I never really have seen On the Waterfront, and I've never really seen Streetcar Named Desire.
The two biggest.
Sure. So have you seen On the Waterfront?
I have.
I think On the Waterfront sucks.
Really?
I mean, that's got to be sacrilege, right?
I would imagine. I don't know.
I don't think he's good in it. And funny enough, afterwards, like L.A. Kazan shows him the cut of the movie when it's done. He was like, "I'm terrible." He's like, "This is awful." He thought it was shit, and I think it is. Like, look, it's got its moments. It's photographed pretty well. It's just overrated. It's an incredibly overrated movie. It's so melodramatic.
I don't know. I'm going to go out further and say I don't know if a lot of people have actually seen it
I
as
doubt-
much as they
Dude.
know the beats and the quotes and the.
Yeah, you get the one scene. I could have had class. I
Right.
could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. Okay, fine, it's great. Whatever. It's a good line. It's a good line. And like, I don't know. He's got that horrible makeup on the whole movie.
Right.
It's just bad makeup.
Yeah.
Like they had to put it on both eyes. Like it just really looks stupid. He's not very good at it. I don't care what anyone says. You know who's good at it? Lee J. Cobb, Carl Malden. Those two are acting in the movie. Fred Gwynn, uncredited.
Yeah.
But dude, every time
But you can pick him out. It's like
I did too. Immediately,
you
I'm
see
like,
this lurking kind of yeah.
But every time Lee J. Cobb and his Union goons are on the screen, I'm like, oh, this is good.
It's interesting, yeah.
And then they leave, and then what do you get? You get 25-minute
Smoky
sequences
kind
of fucking Ava Marie Saint. Here. You ready? Here's
Yeah.
her role. Terry. Oh, Terry. Here's your Oscar, Miss Marie Saint. Like, she's not good. It's boring,
Yeah.
dude. And I think that's one of the worst criticisms you can make of a film. But when they're up on the rooftop, like, hey, this pigeon's got a blah, blah, blah. Oh, Terry. I'm like, dude, what is Lee J. Cobb up to right now?
I like this movie. I
did not like it. I was shocked. I was stunned.
Yeah.
I was stunned. I was like, this is bad. And then the funniest thing is, so you got Elia Kazan, right? Famous director, obviously.
Controversial, director.
Famously testified to Congress or the House Un-American Committee or whatever the fuck about people in Hollywood being communists. Now, my politics are very weird. I'm most certainly
To say the least.
a staunch anti-communist now, though. I most certainly am. I will not support that. But I'm also a total free speech absolutist.
Sure.
So if someone wants to be a communist or whatever, like, I'm not going to stop them. I'm not going to support them. But so I'm iffy on what he did there. But so this movie was kind of his answer to all that. Like, sometimes you got to stand up and you got to testify even against your friends. So I'm watching this movie like, oh, does Elia Kazan think he's Brando standing up for... I'm like, dude, fuck you, you self-serving asshole.
Did they give him an honorary Oscar or something at one point?
Yes, I remember it was the year The Truman Show was nominated. Because this is when I cared about this kind of stuff. I was watching the Oscars and stuff. But so it's... Ed Harris is there. He's sitting up front with Jim Carrey or whatever. When they trot out Kazan, it's Scorsese and De Niro. And De Niro's got this really stupid haircut, too. I recommend watching it. It's interesting to watch who applauds,
right?
Who doesn't, who stands,
right.
Who doesn't. Ed Harris looks pissed.
Really?
He's just sitting there with his arms crossed, all angry. Warren Beatty stands up and applauds. But he had worked with Kazan. I think
right.
Splendor in the Grass.
Yeah.
Spielberg kind of sits politely and claps. It's interesting. It's a weird little time capsule.
They're all just full of shit.
Of course.
And that's the thing about that. You watch that Larry King interview, and Brando was like, "What do you, George C. Scott said this about it," and Brando was just like, it was a marketing thing,
which everyone does. Everyone like. When did this start? Why it was a what's the best way? It's like a trade show almost.
Yeah,
That's how it started.
Yeah.
Like it's not. It wasn't. And he even says like gives a air of legitimacy. We're giving awards to each other. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, you can see now it's totally meaningless.
Yeah. But he this is a guy who called it out.
Yeah.
Decades ago.
And it's so funny too. Like take for like the whole Sasheen Littlefeather thing, where he sends up the Native American woman to accept his Oscar. It was nonsense. It was just incoherent and like dumb and like, but it's funny as hell because it pissed everybody off.
Right.
Oh, that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And then she turns around and does Playboy.
Yeah, and he knew what
Big
he was
nipples.
doing. He really
big dinner plate.
I did not know that.
I had to look, Ed.
And you watched A Streetcar Named Desire as well?
No.
Really?
Dude, after On the Waterfront, I was like,
oh, see, then you can't really
more
say...
melodrama, Tennessee Williams. I'm like,
see, here's the thing.
For the moment, I passed.
Okay.
And I'm going to revisit On the Waterfront.
And this is where I think the difference is going to be. I think A Streetcar Named Desire is just a miserable film, and I don't care for it. I think you would...
Right up my alley.
Yeah.
Some, like, New Orleans
it's
street
just
trash.
Fucking
like...
drunk asshole that beats... he's just awful in it, and it's just a miserable movie. No one wins.
That sounds pretty good.
And I always wanted to... It's not Brando, but it is Elia Kazan as a face in the crowd. Seems like a cool concept movie.
The guy's made classic films, don't get me wrong, but like I just was stunned. This was one of those movies where it was like, man, it didn't live up to the hype.
Yeah.
Because this was always hyped as the greatest performance. Blah, blah. It's only a great performance because at the time he wasn't screaming and running around like Carl Malden or Lee J. Cobb.
Sure.
He just, who were chewing up the scenery in every scene they're in.
Yeah.
Especially Lee J. Cobb.
Yeah,
He's so
he really is.
good. But instead he was just quiet, you don't know what he's saying. That's when like the mumbling, he mumbles, It was new. It was weird. It was different. Fine. Now I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
So what did you think of Brando in The Freshman?
The whole time, all I could think was one word. Why? Why
is he doing it?
Yeah. Why? What is this? Why are we doing this? I can see he wants to maybe tweak the character a little bit, play with it or whatever, but he doesn't.
Yeah. So here's the thing about what happens with this movie is that Andrew Bergman writes this movie based on a real story of a mobster who got into some legal trouble for being in the exotic animal trade, because the movie opens up on a Komodo dragon being hatched.
And now in my mind, and my theory of montage, I'm like, oh, maybe that's just like,
some kind of analogy.
Yeah, of like, a lizard has been hatched. Like,
you sound like the film professor in this movie.
Yeah, right. Like, no, it wasn't.
So he writes this movie, and the idea, Vincent Teresa was the mobster who was arrested for smuggling some kind of lizards into the United States. The first person he offers it to is Jack Nicholson. And then they send it to Al Pacino, Joe Montana. They never thought they would get Brando involved. Turns out Brando is a huge fan of The In-Laws, or was a huge fan of The In-Laws.
Oh, by the way, I have to say this, because we just did all the Trey Parker, Matt Stone stuff.
Yeah.
It blew me away watching The In-Laws when they finally get down south of the border and they meet with that general.
Senor Pepe.
And he's got the thing.
Yeah.
See? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Like, it's Cartman from Taco Flavored Kisses.
It was definitely inspired them.
Dude, it was the same thing. It blew me away, and I thought, man, that's so funny to just like, they never explain it in the movie. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's a great little...
I could see Brando, like, it's a fun movie. It's a great movie. It's good.
So he contacts Andrew Bergman. I don't know what year. I guess it's before this movie gets written. But he tells Bergman that him and Michael Jackson want to do this movie where one of them plays God and one of them plays the devil, and Scorsese's going to direct it. So Bergman calls up Scorsese and is like, is this legitimate? And he was like, well, it's not, just kind of. So it never ends up happening, but it kind of gets Bergman on, into Brando's mind. So they send him the script, and like the next day, again, because to get Brando a script in the 90s was a huge deal. You had to call his attorney, and then you have the special address you have to go to leave a message on this machine. Anyway, he calls like the next day, Brando, and says, what do you think this character would wear? And Bergman kind of knew then that he's going to do the movie. Oh my God. He said the only stipulation was Brando said the only way I can do this is if I play Don Corleone. Or Don Corleone late, or, just a shadow of that character. And then due to the legality of it, I think Paramount ended up suing them or filed a lawsuit that said it was hard for them to work around how we're going to do it, because they don't actually ever say. Matthew Broderick comes very close to saying your resemblance to the Godfather, it's cut off.
It's true.
They never actually say Don Corleone, the Godfather. It's just alluded to that he's the guy that they based the movie on.
They show clips from the Godfather in film school.
I think that is you're dealing with some kind of, I don't know.
No, you're right. It's just funny.
It's just that you can't use a character, and I don't know. He's not. He looks a little bit like me. It's not the same character. There's a few speech inflections, but it
just looks similar.
Yeah,
and
looks similar
and sounds
and,
similar.
Yeah,
yeah. It really is.
He's not doing the jaw thing. It's just he's got the little mustache. But that was that. I thought that was like that. Maybe he wrote this movie with that in mind, but not the case. That was Brando's idea. The only way he can play this role, and he gets critical accolades for it. Ebert says, there have been movies where stars have repeated the triumphs of their parts, but has any star ever done it more triumphantly than Marlon Brando does in The Freshman?
This is like Ebert at his dumbest. What are you talking about?
So, and I also point
what
out...
is he talking about there? It's not triumphant.
He's
basically doing a fucking SNL skit like, hey, remember the character I used to play?
That's not true. He does it with such wit, discipline, and seriousness that it's not a ripoff and it's not a cheap shot. It's a brilliant comic masterstroke.
Let me put it this way. It's not a masterstroke. It's just like it's a curiosity.
Yeah,
it's gimmicky,
right?
And it's okay. He doesn't embarrass himself or anything,
no.
And he doesn't like. He also doesn't. It's not like he's shitting on Don Corleone or the Godfather or anything. But like, that's what I'm saying. Where's the comedic masterstroke, Ebes?
I don't know, but it reflected in the box office, because I don't know if you know this. This movie opened against a little film called Problem Child, which presumed innocent, opened that weekend as well. So you had the audiences completely split. Like adults went to go see Presumed Innocent, families and kids went to see Problem Child, and this movie just tanks.
I like the movie with the evil kid.
I feel like Brando would be a huge Problem Child fan.
Absolutely would have loved that film.
Apparently he didn't consider himself a good comedic actor, but he loved comedy. He genuinely really loved comedy film, and he loved comedians and just, He
notoriously was quite close with Richard Pryor.
Yes. That's,
how close is a matter of debate.
Quincy Jones has said some things on that record.
Quincy Jones. I gotta watch myself here.
So it doesn't do really well. The thing we should also talk about this movie is Matthew Broderick, who on Hats Off, I did a John Hughes video, and then I followed it up with the Ferris Bueller sitcom. So I've been very Broderick. He's been in my mind. I've been watching a lot of him.
Man, that sitcom looked horrible.
Yeah, not
good.
And
you nailed the one thing. Obviously, I didn't watch the show, but I watched your video. Is that every time that Ferris
Bueller little sound cue?
Oh, that is horrible. But that's another thing. I hated the score in this Freshman movie. It's very, very childish and toy-like.
It's a very Silvestri type score.
I hate it.
You want like those
I generally can't stand them. But you're right. In the movie, Ferris is kind of a little bit of a heel. You like him, but he's a little bit of a dick.
Yeah.
In the show, it's just like, will someone slap this kid in the teeth?
Yeah, get him kicked out.
Dude, I couldn't. Every time I'm seeing him, I'm like, fuck Ferris.
But the thing about watching this movie, too, I'm like, the sad thing about Matthew Broderick is that after he grew out of being able to play these young roles, I don't think he ever came back to good film roles like that.
There's one I could think of. I was,
Inspector Gadget.
No, obviously. But having my shower thoughts. It's a movie I love, too. Election.
Election.
Perfect role for the post.
Yeah.
yet still pubescent
Yeah,
Matthew
and someone
Broderick.
said like that movie is great if you consider like maybe it's a sequel to Ferris Bueller, like he's Ferris Bueller grown up.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know if any truth to it, but they're working on a follow up to that. Not with him. It's about her, and I think she's a principal now.
I did hear that. Well, they
Yeah.
also redid it.
Did they?
Or no, maybe I'm thinking of Heathers.
I think you're thinking of Heathers. Yeah.
Because they took a weird approach where it was just like
Yeah, they did like
the
a.
Heathers were all like, your progressive
I don't know.
bullies instead of, your blonde bully. I don't know. I didn't watch it.
But there's a couple movies he does around this time that Lady Hawk is a movie I've always wanted to check out. I've never seen it.
I haven't either.
Are you familiar with it? It's like a medieval kind of sword and sorcery. Richard,
Pardon me.
Richard Donner directed it.
I hated medieval crap when I was a kid. I've turned around and I like it now.
Okay.
So it might be something worth checking out.
Biloxi Blues is a movie
I love
that's
Biloxi Blues.
really fun.
Great movie.
Again, then he does Ferris Bueller is obviously around there. He does Glory, which I've never seen, but he was doing like a lot of like.
I've never seen Glory.
But he really played this like young like. He does. There are some moments in this movie where he conveys just this like utter frustration of this character really well, and he for being like I don't know how old he was here. He's born in '62, so he's well into his late 20s here. But he's playing Ferris Bueller. Like you believe that he is a high school student, and this one a college student.
I just couldn't take it in this movie. There's no breaking point where he goes like enough. Like he just keeps going along with the bullshit in this story.
I think that's what they keep digging him deeper and deeper into it, where he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, but he doesn't. The movie's too thin.
It
just expects you to accept what's happening, and I'm like, well, wait a second, well, you can get into it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Matthew Broderick plays Clark Kellogg, and his stepfather is an environmental activist who is Twin Peaks cast member.
Wyndham Earl. I forget the actor's name. Fuck, he was in Wrong Guy too.
Yeah, he's Kenneth Welsh.
That's right.
Yeah, and he's kind of the movie opens with him and his stepson thwarting these hunters out in the woods of Vermont where they live, and there's a weird element in this movie where there's like a voiceover narration by Broderick's character, which I feel like is definitely an in-post thing to kind of clear up some of the inconsistencies.
100%.
Because it happens like in 3 scenes. It's really out of place. It's not like over the whole movie. It's just like, this is my stepfather, Dwight, and he is an environmental activist. You can tell even they were like, no one's going to kind of grip what's going on here.
No, and not only that, this is the whole hinge of the plot.
Right.
Is this stepfather.
Right. I'll tell you what my biggest plot hole is with the whole arc of this movie when we get to it. But essentially, yeah, he's this huge environmental activist, and Matthew Broderick, his character Clark, is about to attend New York University Film School. So he's going from Vermont to the big city, and almost instantly, as soon as he arrives in New York, he is taken advantage of by a character played by Bruno Kirby, who is the best, in my opinion, part in this movie.
I guess.
Really? You weren't? I just thought...
No. The best part of the movie is Paul Benedict as the film professor.
That is a really good part, too. I don't know. I love Bruno Kirby.
I like him, too, but he's not doing anything here.
Yeah, he is, though. He's kind of, he's...
But it's annoying because it doesn't go anywhere. Like, he's just bullshitting him the whole time. And you're like, okay, when does the bullshitting stop? And it doesn't stop till the last fucking second of the movie where I'm like, I don't care at this point. It's over, Johnny. I don't give a fuck. Because really, what is Vic doing throughout the movie?
He is aiding his uncle in...
But did he lose the money in a gambling thing?
No.
Why even give the guy this fucking money back then?
I'm sure after all was said and done, he got his money back.
Then he's like,
All right, let's. You're getting ahead of yourself, and I'm going to step in here because
this really annoyed me, man.
So he
getting hot.
This character runs into Clark on Grand Central Station, and I will say this as me who went from I was born in Philadelphia, grew up in the suburbs, then went back to Philadelphia for film school. I could relate to this, like when you step out into the city and you're like, oh, this is my life now, and like you're seeing characters that are pretty unsavory. My first semester Occupy movement happened, so like the city was just a mess. It was a shanty town of...
Yeah, it was.
And so all of a sudden it was just like, here I am from this private little Catholic high school and suburban life, and all of a sudden I'm in the city and there's people living in tents and shitting in the streets. It was just like
but we
culture shock.
won though, right? Oh yeah, no, we didn't. Okay.
But I can relate to that aspect, and yeah, he takes him, agrees to. He says, I'll drive you. I have a car service. You don't want to get on the subway. There's all these like people dancing, beatboxing by the subway. So he takes him up on that, and he drops him off at school, and he says, "Oh, the trunk unlatches." Before he can get his luggage out, Bruno Kirby speeds off with his $600 and his luggage, and he goes to his dorm room where he meets his roommate, played by another character I like, Frank Whaley, as Steve Bouchak.
It was so right when he walks in and he's got the viewfinder and he's just like, we call this a medium shot and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna like this movie.
See, but I like it because I knew assholes like this in film school.
But this is my big problem, where when movies go, this is enough. I'm just gonna give you a little bit and then that's enough. It's like he does the viewfinder thing, right? And he's like, oh, he's up. He doesn't do anything like that for the rest of the film. He's just there.
I'll agree with you on that.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's too much of that where it's like, okay, this character does this. And then they never do it again, but you're like, it's almost like you have to do work as the viewer. Like, oh, wait, no, I have to remember this character thinks this way, even though they never do anything.
Yeah.
It's lazy shit. I hate it.
Frank Whaley's got an interesting career, though.
He's an odd one.
Yeah.
I feel like he pissed some people off.
I
don't know why
when I
think
did that John Hughes video, I watched Career Opportunities, which I had never seen, and it's weird. It's a weird one. It's like he could have been bigger. I just don't know. Like you said, maybe he did something, or
I feel like I read something somewhere where he told someone to fuck off. I don't know.
You ever see Swimming with Sharks?
I love that movie.
Is it? I've never seen it.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know if it holds up.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
It's fun. He just
Yeah.
tortures Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, it's great.
It's not bad. It's fun watching Kevin Spacey be a total piece of shit in a film.
Yeah. Then we get to this great character, Fleabur, who is like the film professor, played by the great Paul Benedict, who... What a tragedy this guy never got to play Groucho Marx, because he really, he does a little impressionist, but it's just the way he speaks and the way, and he is essentially, Clark is saying like, oh, my stuff got stolen, I just need the book, and he's the author of all the textbooks for the class, and it's called Fleabur's Viewpoints on Cinema, and he's like, oh, well, you can't survive this class without Fleabur, and he's got all behind him on his shelf just sitting there. This is so film school to me. This is 100% the type of shit I don't know about you, but I dealt with in film school. Like the egotistical professor his viewpoints are cinema. You're not allowed to.
Did you have the British guy?
No.
It's always weird in film school because you're being taught by a film professor, and it's like, well, what have you done? Like, you know what I mean? It's
exactly,
a little. Well, I was this and that on that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's okay. You don't have to be Scorsese to teach film, obviously, but.
This guy has his classroom is plastered with these gigantic headshots of. I know De Palma's there, Scorsese, Coppola,
and I think I've read David Spielberg.
Really,
who's like an actor.
There's a young guy. I didn't know who it was, like a brunette guy. I recognize everyone else, but there's this one. David Spielberg. That's really funny.
But see, this is where I had a problem because he's in there talking to Fleabur in his office, and he looks out the window and he sees Bruno Kirby walking by with like a cart of laundry.
Yeah.
That was a setup.
Correct.
According to the fake mob. Are they even in the mob, by the way? They are mafia.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever.
But Jimmy the Toucan.
Sure, fine. That's another thing, too, with the names. It's just
I can't believe how much disdain you have for just this.
Me too. I was surprised. After the movie ended, I'm like, wow, I really fucking hated that. I'm like, why? But
did you take your happy pills before watching it?
No,
Were you drinking some wine or something?
No.
All right.
No. So maybe that's the problem. But so part of this setup is I'm gonna walk by this film professor's office window with laundry at just the precise moment. That's stupid.
That's not.
And he's gonna chase me.
That's not how I took it. I took it that he's going to wander around the
neighborhood 24/7,
like the building where he lives, and just
it's preposterous. It's just so stupid.
I think it makes more sense than it just so happened. Like if it wasn't a setup, like if he scammed this kid out of his money that goes to New York University, and then he decides to walk through the neighborhood.
Get ready. Here's the other preposterous thing. I'll take it one step further.
Okay.
So he jumps out the window. Hey, I want my money back. I'm Matthew Broderick. Oh, I'm Bruno Kirby.
That's the actual dialogue.
Yeah, they run to the tenement. He chases him up on the roof. And he's like, okay, hey, look, kid, I lost the money gambling, but I got a job for you if you want it to make that money back. What? The whole time I'm watching this scene, I'm like, you take the job and pay me, Bruno Kirby. I don't do the job to get the money back. It's stupid.
Yeah,
you would just say, give me the money.
Yes, you would. But I think this...
Yes, we wouldn't have a film, obviously.
No. But like, he's from Vermont. He's in New York. He's a sheltered kid. I think that's...
Just go to the fucking cops. He says it. He's like, I'm going to the cops.
I think this movie sets it up in a way that you're led to believe that he is just naive and he wouldn't have the foresight to make these logical decisions.
You can say it. It don't make it true.
Right.
I did not accept that.
I did not. I did not, Ed.
But this is what I'm saying, man. When I hate when filmmakers do this. We're like, nah, you'll accept it because that's what I wrote. That's how you didn't work. It didn't work for me. So then the rest of the fucking movie, I'm thinking, why is he even doing this shit? Why even do this? I would burn the guy's house down instead.
It must be a lot of fun at parties, Ryan.
I'm a blast. I get really drunk and make an ass of myself. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will say so they're up on the roof hanging Vic's laundry, and there is kind of an interesting shot where the World Trade Centers are in the horizon, and I think Vic says like, "Oh, my sister finds out, she's going to kill me." And he puts a finger gun to his head, and it's him. It's just a really one of those like timely shots. I did the same thing when I was looking. In my Ferris Bueller sitcom video, I was talking about all the other shows that were around that were inspired by movies, and any sitcom set in New York, those trade centers were in the opening.
Had to have it.
Yeah.
Had to.
And it's just, when you see it, it's I don't know, it's an eerie thing when you see it in movies like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but he says, I've got a job, it's a great job, come meet me at my uncle's social. I love the idea of the Italian social club.
Me too.
There's one in Philadelphia I would love to get into, but it's like you have to know someone. You can't. It's one of those deals.
If I ever move back to the city, which I won't, I was going to get because you have to get a membership now at Pen and Pencil.
I heard that. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, there's an after hours club in Philly. Everyone, we'd get off work at the bar or whatever. It's 2:00. You still want to drink? All the bars are closed. You go to Pen and Pencil.
Open till 3 or later, depending what. Yeah,
they're
kind of whack.
Been there quite late sometimes, but it's
cool.
cool.
Crock pot of hot dogs in the corner.
Yeah, which
help yourself.
I did eat one once.
I've had quite a few hot dogs at the Pen and Pencil.
Yeah, but we've had some good times there. It's cool. It has that private vibe.
Right.
You wouldn't know it if you walked past it on the street.
Mm-hmm. I think it was originally created for journalists, and then it was extended to service industry people.
Right.
We used to be able to get in just showing your when you pay
you get
slip or
something.
something.
You get a payout at the end of the night when you cash out as a waiter.
Your slip and
you'd show that your ID and they'd let you in or whatever. But last time I was up there, I was hammered drunk, and I was like, "Dude, come on, let me in." He's like, "We don't do that anymore." I'm like, "No, because you're drunk.
Yeah.
You do it. I think I somehow got in.
We'll wear our Almost Cult Classics T-shirts and go down there and be like, "We're journalists.
Yeah, right.
Let us in."
But no, now you just get a membership and you can just go. So, but I only come to the city to fucking
record the podcast. Yeah,
pretty much.
So I do think this scene is pretty funny. This is where Clark meets Carmine Sabatini, who's Marlon Brando's character. He even remarks upon walking in,
God almighty. I bet I know what you're thinking of his sandwich, right? I can't believe it. He's the real thing, the original merchandise. When they saw him, they based the movie. Is he like a mafia guy? No. Local businessman importer. That's it.
he sits down and there's a giant picture of Mussolini on the wall. And he's like, that wouldn't have to be Mussolini, was it?
You know, that picture on the wall back there, that wouldn't by any chance be Mussolini.
It ain't Tony Bennett.
Yeah, like he's not bad.
No.
Like Brando's not bad in this movie. I'm just like, to me, it's almost a little bit like the Grandpa's Last Ride almost.
Yeah, well, I think
like,
that's why
certain,
it's...
like when he's ice skating later in the movie, I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
Like, but even this, like, okay, the Mussolini thing's kind of funny. Why not have some old world? Some old, Italian fascists in there, like in the corner, like or grumbling or something. Like it just the joke doesn't really go anywhere. Like it's not to me. It's not that like, oh, isn't it so weird that like a Mussolini? Like not really. Like I don't know. A lot of Italians still like him. Like there wasn't enough joke there for me.
Now you go in.
I wanted more joke.
Italian Social Club. It's Tony Soprano.
Yeah, right.
It's that.
Yeah.
You ever see that like? It was always in the deli I used to go to. It was like it's like
the
that
Sinatra.
It's like the Sinatra mugshot. The Tony Soprano where he's also like at a table with Tony Montana.
Oh,
and
I used to see him in the mall all the time.
Yeah,
those things.
those
Jesus Christ.
shit art galleries.
Yeah.
It's just like there's someone's made one on Twitter. It comes on every now and again. It's like a video of all the.
I think I've seen it.
It's well done, but it's just like at a certain point you're like, what is this?
It's cringe, but well done at the same time. It's very funny.
Now, there's an actor in this scene who is playing the bartender or like the guy working behind the
I
counter.
love that actor.
Yeah, Leonard Cimino.
He's awesome.
Who a lot of our listeners are, I know they're, because they always suggest it, the Monster Squad. He's the old man in Monster Squad. He's in a ton of shit. You've seen this guy in things.
A ton of shit.
He doesn't have to say anything. He just has that great look. And I do love when he's like, Piacere. And Bruno Kirby's like, he says his heart is very filled with gratitude upon meeting you.
Yeah.
It's this running joke where he's translating everything. Like, they order espresso, like, 2 espressos, 2 espressos, he says. Like,
I gotta be honest, Bruno Kirby was actually annoying me in this movie.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I love Bruno Kirby. I
love
really
Bruno
like
Kirby.
him. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like,
you can tell in the scenes when he's acting with Brando, he is in awe.
yeah, he's excited.
You can really tell that. I do love that Carmine has such contempt for his nephew. And everything he says, like, I don't know. I like their dynamic. I just wish there was more of that in this movie.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I wish there was more of the shit that works.
Because I will agree that there's one part of this movie that really doesn't work for me, and it's your favorite actress.
Man, okay. Are we up to the point to introduce her? Because I don't even remember stupid how it gets introduced.
Yeah, so the job is that Kark has to get a Cadillac, pick up a Cadillac from them. He's going to drive to the JFK airport, pick up a cargo, and drive to Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's a package. That's all he knows about.
Cherry Hill, too. That made me laugh. Cherry Hill.
And he's going to be paid $500 for it. They're very...
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you what's in the cookie, Larry.
Yeah, it's great. I do like at the end of their meeting, he does the hand of friendship. He grabs both of his hands and holds it real tight. And also that espresso when he's like, Italian coffee, you got to put a little sugar in it. He puts like 5 heaping
7 and
things of sugar, and then drink up, and then woo. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. And then he
I
says,
liked Big Leo at the airport.
we are synonymous. So he says, come to my house to pick up the keys for this Cadillac that you're going to end up driving. And he shows up at the house in Queens, he says it is. And his daughter is there, played by Penelope Ann Miller.
So, I'm sorry, what is Brando's character's name in this movie?
Carmine Sabatini.
An Italian mafioso type guy?
Yeah.
Hey, we have a daughter role for this. Who should we get for it? I know, Penelope Ann Miller.
Sofia Coppola.
Do Italians exist in Hollywood? I know there's come on. Penelope Ann Miller.
So listen, we've talked. I forget why the fuck The Artist. We did The Artist on one of our sound movie things.
I think it was more De Palma. I was talking about how she ruins Carlito's way for me.
It was probably multiple.
Charlie.
It's probably multiple times we've talked about Penelope Ann Miller. Now, I don't have a particular problem with Penelope Ann Miller.
I don't really either. I just don't like
But I know she's. I got to rewatch Biloxi Blues. I know she's in that.
Ugh.
I recently revisited briefly because I was scrubbing for clips looking for a video I was doing on Big Top Pee-wee where she's kind of love interest. That she works and she's just like this like naive school teacher, you know. She does not work in this movie
bad
at all.
in this,
she's
man.
really bad.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Like that.
There's no chemistry.
None. And she's like got that smirk on her face the whole time.
And I'll just come out and say it. I just don't see the appeal of like she's supposed to play like this because everyone
She's
remarks
not
about how
attractive.
beauty she.
No.
I just don't.
She's
see
got
it.
that short cut, and it's like
something. I don't
and
know.
she doesn't, dude. Get an Italian girl. Like, come on.
It is weird that this movie does open the same year as Godfather 3. You know?
I mean, Sofia Coppola is no great actress, but
No. But I agree what you're saying.
it's just so weird.
Even
Why-
like in the house, there's this aunt that's there. They don't really do anything with that. She's walking around. She has a headache. It's
that
like
was kind of funny, but
yeah,
they do nothing
do
with
nothing
it.
But it turns out that
And the Mona Lisa thing was stupid.
yeah, it's stupid.
Although, and I didn't get a chance to look into this, I think it was stolen at one point
I think it was
from the Louvre.
really.
Yeah, like, dude, a bunch of paintings were stolen, and then like, it might be another museum heist, but it was like one where they're like, it was like a major deal.
Really?
And you could make the case that the one in the Louvre is not the real Mona Lisa. But like I said, I might be mixing up stories and conspiracies in my head. Who fucking knows?
Well, so the interesting again here we see when he goes in the house. As soon as he enters the house, up on the balcony, and like an armed guard with a shotgun. After he goes in, comes out of hiding. Like again, because they're trying not to let him know this. They're just businessmen. But this scene is awkward because she's just like, there's a Mona Lisa painting hanging above the fireplace. And he's like, oh, wow, look at that. That's a great replica. And she's like, replica?
This has to be a copy, okay?
Do you remember about 10 years ago, the original toured the country?
It did?
They brought it over from the Louvre.
Who?
I don't know who. They. It was in the United States, is my point.
And?
And it stayed here.
That's the real thing. And he's like, wait, what? And it turns out that, like, yeah, the Mona Lisa was coming to tour the U.S., and Carmine has such power that he was able to get it swapped out with a regular. And then she puts on the Mona Lisa song and is like, dance with me. It's just, yeah, I agree.
It's really bad.
Really bad.
So like, there's parts in this movie where it gets like sentimental, and I'm like, this should be a wacky comedy.
Yeah.
This just kills comedies for me. When they want to get like, let's have our serious moment here. Let's let the characters, love each other. Why? Why?
Here's the thing that I think Bergman did wrong with this movie is that,
Make
like I
it?
said, the film school stuff in this movie is my favorite part. But then that stuff really, I think the exotic animal stuff is a bit silly. I would have loved if it's just this New York movie. This kid gets taken advantage of and has to, no plot twists. They're like it's all intentional. Gets roped in to deal with these mobsters while also attending film school where his professor is really into The Godfather. Like there is a lot of that scene when because he gets essentially the kiss. And they're in class watching the Fredo Michael scene in Godfather 2, and Clark's eyes are like, what have I got? Stuff like that.
Dude, there's so much meat left on the bone with this movie. I think that's what it is. That's what really frustrated me. I saw a good movie here, a funny movie. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, okay, they get the fucking, by the other way, it was a monitor lizard they use in the movie.
Right, it's not the actual Komodo dragon.
Komodo dragon, I'm like, one, they will bite you. Right. They're vicious.
Yeah.
Two, I'm pretty sure it's like very venomous. Like you're fucked if you get bit by one of them.
I think the thing in this movie is quite bigger too. I don't know if Komodos get that big.
I just really was surprised because they're holding it, and it's like Asian monitor lizards are much more docile.
Right.
They're not like, I think Sharon Stone's husband got bit by a Komodo
Really?
and he died
Shit.
really got fucked up.
That being said, it's a cool fucking looking animal.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Even the thing in this movie, it's like,
Yeah.
you're seeing it, you're like, God damn it. You see like that dinosaur level connection that you don't really see in other things. It's fucking huge. It's like the size of a German Shepherd.
Super cool, but like now we have a boring chase scene essentially where they lose it.
Well, wait, hold on. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Whatever.
I'll fill in the gaps here. So he gets the keys for this sedan DeVille, and Tina, who's Carmine's daughter, suggests that he brings someone else with him because the package is going to be large. So he brings his only friend at this point, his roommate, Steve, played by Frank Whaley, and they drive to the JFK cargo terminal, and there's this huge guy who's like, monitoring the gate.
You boys need me?
Are you Leo?
I am Big Leo.
It just says Leo.
We are the same, Leo and Big Leo.
You're synonymous.
That's right.
And
that was good.
Yeah, it's funny. He leads him to the Komodo dragon, which they have, he says, like, Carmine, it cost him 8 bills to get this smuggled through customs. And, yeah, they stop for gas somewhere. It gets out. It ends up into a shopping mall, which, by the way, watching this movie, I'm like, goddamn, 90s shopping malls were an interesting place.
We didn't know how good we had it.
They're fucking, there's, like, bumper cars, bumper boats in this little pond that he gets into. There's such a cool. I remember going to like a new mall, and you would see like children's play areas like this, and really elaborate. But yeah, it doesn't really go anywhere. They get it back. There's a couple that zany music that you hate,
dude. It's torture, man. It's torture to listen to that.
They bring I'm curious to think what you think of these characters, but they bring it to Larry London.
In Cherry, I just can't get over Cherry Hill. It's just so funny to me. If you've ever been to Cherry Hill, they're not in Cherry Hill.
No, it looks way more rural than Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
So they bring it there, and here's where I'm like, this B.D. Wong character's hilarious.
Yeah,
I was loving this. I'm like, this is funny.
Yeah,
but here's what my big problem is here: the Maximillian Schell character, who they're like, B.D. Wong's his little assistant. They seem to be running some weird zoo, perhaps.
Which are they supposed to be gay together? Is that
I think it's just kind of they're just weirdos. Okay. But he's Larry London. But he's not. That's not his real name.
Yeah, it's
And then Carmine Sabatini is Jimmy the Toucan. Mm-hmm. Why are these fake names like bandied about? There's no point to it. Because at one point they're like, well, Larry London's not actually Larry London. He's so and so.
It's just like
who gives a fuck?
They make,
but who cares? It's needless dialogue. And not only that, it's just like, why are they? What does any of this mean, Joseph?
So, B.D. Wong plays Edward.
Terry.
He's kind of like the carekeeper of all these exotic animals at this farm in Cherry Hill.
And he's very weird and like...
Yeah. I like him. I always like B.D. Wong.
Good.
Except in those Jurassic World movies. He sucks. God, those movies are awful. Anyway, and then Maximillian Schell as Larry London, who is the cook chef that I don't know much about him, but I did hear that Laurence Olivier wanted this part.
Yeah.
Apparently, once people found out that Brando was doing a movie, it became like you could get anyone.
That makes
you
sense.
could
Yeah,
get
I
anyone
believe
to be
it.
like, because it's Broderick at the height of his career. It's Brando. Like it was, people wanted to be in a movie with Brando.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be Laurence Olivier. He was too ill, so it goes to Maximillian Schell, who I think he's pretty fun in this role. Like
I thought it was Pacino at first.
Really?
I swear to God, he turned around. I'm like, oh, is that Pacino? I'm like,
That'd
did
be
I
funny.
not know that? Like, but yeah, it's whatever. Once again, it's too thin in the sense of like you'll accept it. It's funny because they're weird.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, is that it? Like, it kind of is. Like, give me a little more here. And everyone, it was frustrating to watch this movie because the whole movie, this is Matthew Broderick's role in the movie. What's happening here? Well, that's it. Like the whole movie. It's like, is that like, you gotta give a release to a character because you're essentially, he's the avatar for the audience.
Sure.
So I'm getting no release here. I'm just frustrated up until the end because like I said, what's the payoff here? And it's so fucking underwhelming at the end. It's actually asinine. It don't even make sense. It doesn't.
Wait, we're getting
even
ahead
make
of ourselves.
Sense.
So after this happens, I don't know how anyone in the 90s, maybe I don't know, but you wouldn't be aware what a Komodo dragon is. But essentially, he calls home.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
He calls home to Vermont. And by the way, kind of a funny joke where they never remember where he's from.
It's okay.
It's Kansas, so 6 in one, half a dozen the other. There's a few.
Right.
So he calls his mom and is like, hey, could you grab one of the stepfather's books and look up Komodo dragons? And turns out he's listening in on the phone up in the bathroom, which this is where the plot starts to like, so you knew he was going to be listening in on a phone call. He knew he was going to call home and ask about.
Why would he be listening in on it? Like, it just doesn't.
It's not explained very well at all. I think either this movie was butchered in edits or something. There's some
rewrites.
There's something that just really doesn't come together. And
it does not congeal.
You have to forgive a lot of, logic because it's just nonsensical. That the fact that it would be this coincidental that everything would fall into place, it wouldn't.
No.
It's
in
fact, he shouldn't have even called home. He just
it relies. Not only that. So he calls home for a Komodo dragon. Is there any libraries at NYU?
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, he could have easily looked it up.
Pre-internet, sure.
Right.
You may not know this or that.
You're at a college library where you
fucking dumb, man. So dumb.
So he goes back to Carmine Sabatini at the social club and tells him that, look, thank you for the job. It's great. I don't want to do it. I didn't know I would be dealing with endangered species here. And I guess to rope him into this whole thing so he sticks with it, Carmine says that, well, the most important thing is that you are going to marry my daughter.
And I think this is where I really started to turn on the movie.
Okay.
Because I was like, he's like, what are you talking about? Like, right? Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
This really annoyed the shit out of me, though. But go ahead.
Yeah, he just kind of puts his hand over his face and is like, marriage? She's like, yeah, she's Clark this and Clark that. She's infatuated with you. And then
she met him once.
She met him once. And then he gives him a car. Which, again, it's like... And this is where you're like, we get this plot with the Fish and Wildlife Department of Justice officers who...
Two phenomenally good actors.
Phenomenal character actors that always play parts like this. Richard Gant, who...
I love him.
Terrific.
He's just fun. Like, every time you see him, you're almost happy to see him. He's got that scowl on his face.
It's one of my favorite parts of Rocky V, which is an otherwise not a great movie.
He's the other promoter,
he's the
isn't
other
he?
promoter,
He's
with his giant jackets.
Yes.
And then Philadelphia native John Polito, who we love.
Sure.
Yeah,
it's
Coen
classic.
Brothers regular.
Of course.
But even like...
He's giving me the hi-hat.
I was thinking of Bushwhacked. He plays very similar. Like, he's like the sleazy FBI agent that's just a piece of shit. He played that role so well. And
by the way, I think Bergman produced it? I think it was Little Big League.
Oh, really?
I love that movie, man.
I haven't seen it in years.
Is that the one where David Stern gets caught in the equipment locker?
Yes.
That's a really good kids movie.
Yeah, there's a lot around this time period, especially. Like, there's a lot when you grow up and you revisit kids' movies. You're like, oh, that sucked.
There's
a
good
few
ones,
from the
like,
90s where
I'm
it's
sorry,
like...
Rookie of the Year was the David
Rookie of the
Stern
Year.
getting caught.
Daniel Stern, yes.
Thank you, David
Stern. Yeah.
David Stern's the, I think he is the NBA guy.
I don't know who that is.
Wait, who the fuck was David Stern?
It's Howard Stern.
Yeah.
Ooh, Robin. Ooh, Robin.
I invented podcasting.
I invented the... By the way, you want to hear something really interesting? I heard this the other day. Podcasts, you know why they're called podcasts?
was iPod.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Stupid should have put that together. They were
Yeah.
originally iPod casts, and they fucking stuck the name.
Yeah.
So
That's weird.
Yeah,
That's how that shit happens.
So
What was I just bitching about there?
Everything.
These two great actors wasted.
yeah.
But hold on. So they give him a Benz. It's like a gift.
Again, I think at this point they're just trying to trap him where he feels like he can't.
But okay, so he's like, he goes outside. Bruno Kirby, here you go, kid. He gets in the car. What was he doing here? Because immediately he's now being chased.
So-
and he's like, oh no, I'm being chased. By
Okay.
who? By what? What is happening?
This is clear to me. I will say there's some. Like, this is laid out pretty straightforward.
Okay, please.
So, this is where before he leaves, Carmine gets emotional and gives him the kiss of all kisses, which is it's the poster for this movie. You ever see the poster? I don't even think they knew how to market this fucking movie because it's just Brando holding Broderick's cheeks. Gives him a big kiss, and everyone does the sign of the cross with that witnesses it. The bartender does it, and gives him a car, and was like, "Yeah, you're gonna take the car and go pick up Tina for me." And
I must have missed that line.
and this is where you get, you see on the rooftop they're taking those classic Donnie Brasco style where you get the the characters with that effect where it's just the still photography, black and white flash.
Yeah, like when they shake hands or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And they're like, come on, let's go, get him. So they start chasing him. He ends up evading them in a car elevator thing.
Oh, right.
And is able to, goes to, Tina attends like a Catholic girls' college. And she's like, Clark, this is Father Weather. We're talking about the wedding and how it's going to be. And yeah, it's just...
It's so funny, man. There's like there is a weird connection here because like the whole thing with on the waterfront is like, oh, you're gonna snitch, don't be a stoolie,
right?
Stool pigeon. And in this one, the Broderick character kind of deals with that same thing towards the end. He's like, oh, am I gonna rat or whatever? Right. It's,
so eventually, these two agents do end up getting him. So it's Greenwald and Simpson. And they basically tell him that they're Fish and Wildlife, they're from the Department of Justice, and Carmine Sabatini runs this thing called the Gourmet Club, which is rich people pay tons of money to eat endangered species, which again, kind of a...
I thought that was interesting,
yeah,
at least.
It's never the same location twice. It's all these fucking millionaires come out, they pay extra if it's really endangered, and they want him to set up Carmine Sabatini. They want him to bring him in. I don't think at this point Clark knows that his stepfather is the one that called the Fish and Wildlife, but he's the one that's...
Okay, here's the big leap that I just can't accept.
Mm-hmm.
So not only was the stepfather eavesdropping on the call, he calls somehow. He doesn't just call this department. He calls these two specific crooked agents.
There's something that they left out because it's...
Okay, but you're blaming me.
No, I'm not.
So I didn't miss anything here.
No.
That you understand?
No,
like, that leap sinks the movie.
His stepfather is obviously known to be this controversial environmental activist that reports on this kind of thing. I don't know how they knew the connection that he would instantly go to Greenwald Simpson.
That's where the movie 100% falls apart.
You've already said this. You've already used up your movie falls apart here. I got annoyed here.
No, this is it.
You
like,
used your lifeline.
No, this is where it's over.
Okay.
Like the fact that like that's at the end, that's the revelation.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we knew your stepfather would call those two specifically.
Yeah, he even Broderick is surprised to put this together. He's like, wait, so you knew all along that I was his? Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't make sense. I'm not defending it.
They knew he was going to go to NYU. Like, it's so stupid.
So after they decide, like, hey, we want you to set him up, he follows him around his little. I guess it's Little Italy. He's doing Don stuff, walking around shaking old ladies' hands and petting, shaking babies and kissing hands and that type of thing. And I don't know. There's something about this scene that I just fucking love, and it's probably because Buster Keaton's in the background. But the Don shows up at his dorm room and says, I want to speak to you. Can I speak? And it's just a very nice scene. I can't explain much about it.
I thought it was a total waste of time.
He talks about the man in the yellow hat, the Curious George. It just kind of like shows you that, Clark wants a father figure. He kind of wants a son figure, and they do.
And you know what I want? A fucking joke. I don't need this shit. I don't care about these two fake people that I want a father. Well, I want a son. Anything here.
I love this scene.
And of course, I'm looking at the scene. I'm like, Joe likes this because Buster Keaton's in the
No,
back.
that's not exactly. That's a great Buster Keaton part.
All I could think was, I'm like, this is
love
it.
By the way, did you happen to watch that interview I sent you with Zac Efron and Seth Rogen. Okay, we need to talk about this real quick.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
My turn to be livid.
Here's another thing, too. It's no matter what you do, guy's considered probably the best actor of all time. You'll still be shit on after you die. By the likes of Seth fucking Rogen.
So, notoriously, at a certain point, Brando started to rely on an earpiece. And it's debated if that was for him being lazy or just because he liked the spontaneity. I think is the way he sold it. He liked the spontaneity of saying dialogue. He didn't want to memorize lines because he felt it ruined his delivery.
And here's the other thing. You got, of all people, Zac Efron in this interview, because it's the Graham Norton show. You guys probably seen. The one thing I like, I never watched that shit, but I do like how he has
I love it, yeah.
the panel.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
I love panel, but I don't
That being
watch
said, when someone telling a story, shut the fuck up
But
and don't try to
Zac
interject
Efron's
jokes in it.
Well, sometimes it's like, the actors are really far apart.
Right.
So you can't, he actually was defending Brando.
How much respect did you earn for Zac Efron in that fuck? I don't like Zac Efron by any stretch of the means.
no real problem with
I have
him.
no problem with neither. But to hear him be like the only one there that was being, because Broderick wasn't even being like, but that motherfucker, man, in that interview, Seth Rogen, I guess they're promoting those Neighbors movies. I don't know what Broderick was promoting, but they end up on this together, and Graham Norton's asking him about working with Brando, and he's talking about the earpiece and all that, and Seth Rogen just like, Broderick says at one point, like, well, we had to go to his island to meet with him. The island of Dr. Moreau. Shut up, dude.
Shut up.
Please. And to see, it's just like he's got this ego problem. And it's amazing. Him and Jonah Hill, you've both turned me on completely. And Jonah Hill, fucking his downfalls, it's upon us. And I'm enjoying every minute of it.
He'll be fine.
Because have you seen this?
He'll be fine.
A movie we discussed on Patreon, our Patreon show, the You People. That's come out that the actress didn't want to kiss him, so they had to CGI their kiss at the end.
Insane.
Because he looks so gross and disgusting. Probably.
Well,
they've said under COVID they're like, we don't want to.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway.
Plus, she was married to that rapper that died. She might not have. I don't.
Who cares? I'm just saying that movie was. Please support us on Patreon so you can listen to that episode because we both lost our minds at that one.
It's funny too. It's real rich. Is that Courtney Cox on the end there in that interview?
Is it?
Exactly. She's sitting there making fun of Brando and his looks and stuff, and I'm like, well, I think you got Leatherface down at the end there with her ridiculous plastic surgery.
I finally watched. This is no surprise to you. I watched Scream. What the fuck are we at now? 6? Scream 6 or something.
Go back and watch that first one, but.
And she's the only one that's still hanging on in the franchise now. She's the only one that comes back. She just looks fucking terrible.
Don't look good.
No, there is when I go to the gym, they have friends playing on the TV because when I'm there, it's friends happens to be on. And she looks so much. She looked great. Why did she fuck her face up like that?
They all do it.
Oh my
None
God.
of them will age gracefully.
That being said, there was one day I forgot my headphones, my wireless AirPods, so I had a spare set, but they don't plug into the iPhone anymore. So I had to watch Friends on the treadmill. Fucking hate that show.
I never got into it.
Oh my God, is it awful?
I just never got it. It never appealed to me.
I was always a Seinfeld person.
Yeah, same here.
Anyway.
That little aside, yeah, he's an annoying fucking guy, Seth Rogen.
Oh my God, and it's just like, dude, shut up! Like, this is an actor talking about working with one of the greatest actors of all time, and you have to interject your comment just like for a minute. Just stop fucking talking and.
He's really skinny there too.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Is he still like that?
I don't know.
I don't fucking.
I doubt it.
Anyway,
I used to love him.
I know.
Man. It's crazy.
I know.
It's crazy.
The same way. I was like Knocked Up period. I felt like there was a few movies he was doing was really good. I know we talked about coming back to Observe and Report.
His best role.
Yeah.
I think it's his best role. It's really, he just kind of tried something a little different, and it works fantastically, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I saw a few people asking about this, about the Tim Heidecker hate. And people are like, he's really funny. Dude, I think he's funny too. I thought he was funny forever. I still think he's kind of funny.
Throwing more gas on the fire.
No, I'll explain my big problem with a lot of these guys. And I explained this to you in regards to something you're doing privately, but these guys make their bones, right? And then they pull up the ladder behind them. It's like, well, I did all this stuff to be funny and make a success and all that, but not you. You don't get that chance. And he does it. Rogan does it. They all made their bones on shit that now they go, that was wrong. And it's cowardly and it's selfish. And that's what I don't like. He's a funny guy, though. I won't take that from him.
Well, yeah.
Just to clear that up, because I saw a few people, they were like, what the hell is this about? I'm like, that's it.
I just don't engage.
That's fine. I try not to, too, but sometimes, I get a hair up my ass.
Amongst other things. Boo. I do like the line in this scene when Brando stands up, he looks around the dorm room and goes, so this is college? I didn't miss nothing.
Yeah.
Again, my favorite parts of this movie are the college stuff because as someone that went to film school, this is very funny to me. I love at 1.2 Flieber mentions another book he wrote called Flieber's Guns and Provolone.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Now, in the Flieber treatise, Guns and Provolone, what point is made about the similarities between Karl Marx's Das Kapital, Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, and the Lake Tahoe scene from Godfather 2, Mr. Kellogg?
Yeah.
So we come back, he's in class now, and...
By the way, can I quick aside with
Yeah.
Paul Benedict? You've seen him in a billion things, but I always remember him for a, tiny, tiny role in Spinal Tap. When they're
right.
checking into the hotel, and, like, he's being weird, and, like, I think they call him an old fruit, and he just goes, I'm just the way God made me. Well, if you ever listen to the Spinal Tap commentary they do in character, I really highly recommend that. It's
great. It's like seeing a second movie, basically.
But yeah, it really is. Because like the whole time they're making fun of like the Rob Reiner character saying his beard was fake and stuff. But they elaborate on the Paul Benedict character, and one of them says like he shows up to their room late at night in a kimono and little slippers, like asking for milk or something. It's so.
I have to listen to that. It's really
Dude,
funny.
it's so funny, man. Ah, what a classic.
He was in a lot of those Christopher Guest movies too. He really funny. He just like
Jefferson's. He was on forever.
Yeah, he looks funny. He's just.
Well, it is a condition.
What?
He's got like an enlarged
bones
really? Or something. Yeah. So
it's like who's that guy with the giant chin? Not Jay Leno. You know what I'm talking about? Like he's in like horror movies and things. Maniac Cop, I think, is his big film franchise.
There's a couple of those guys that have those looks. Like, who was the one that always was playing like the mutant, like Michael Berryman?
Oh yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys. And who was the giant? Billy Crystal's My Giant.
Oh my God, we should do that movie.
My Giant.
You know what's weird too? There was a post on our movies on Reddit that was like, oh fuck, I revisited City Slickers in my 30s and it hit so much differently. And I'm like reading this guy wrote, I'm like, oh fuck. So I went on YouTube and I watched the clip of like where they're talking about the best day and worst day.
It's been a while since I've seen City Slickers.
But like, the older you get, like now I'm 31 now, and it's like, fucking, you reach the middle age. You're like, I want to do something adventurous before it's too late. I want to. It's weird how like you do discover things to love about movies. Like at the ages you hit.
Oh sure.
That didn't resonate with you maybe before, and I feel like now I'm going to start. There's going to be a few of those, movies about adults struggling in their midlife crisis that might appeal to me a little bit more than they did when I was a kid.
Oh, definitely.
So another Godfather 2 scene. This is where I love Flieber is lipping the dialogue to this scene. It's the Fredo kiss scene. That's where you get Broderick like, what's happening to me? And
why does he tell Fredo there's a plane waiting for us?
I don't know.
I never got that.
I don't know. And this is
like, why tell him?
Why alienate enough of our listeners?
Because then he immediately runs away after that.
I am not the biggest fan of Godfather 2. I think I like one more.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
I don't know. It's just like it's so fucking long. I love the De Niro parts,
and there's a lot going on.
Yeah. I
That's
love
fair.
the De Niro parts. I just all that shit with the fucking the Vegas, and it just gets a bit.
Well,
I like Michael,
you have to like, if you watch the movie, you still kind of don't know what the hell was going on with Frankie Five Angels.
No.
I mean, I do at this point. Yeah. I've looked into it and stuff, but it's like, even that's a little coincidental.
Oh, so you're forgiving of plot holes in The Godfather 2, Ryan.
Look,
I'm fucking with you. I know.
But what's the famous Family Guy joke?
All of them could be his angels, and the fat one be Bosley.
No, it's that The Godfather it insists upon itself.
Yeah.
So it's like...
It insists upon itself, Lois.
But here's the thing. It's like, I don't know. There is an argument to be made there because it's like...
forgot all about that.
Yeah.
That is really fucking funny.
It was...
Didn't care for The Godfather 2.
Yeah.
Or is it just The Godfather?
I think it's just Godfather. But
well, little tease, we'll be talking about Barbie on our movie catch-up this week, and there's a Godfather reference in there.
Oh, right. I know. God forbid men try to share something they care about with women, and they give us the time of day. God forbid. Anywho, go on.
So Tina interrupts the film class, and even like once the Flieber finds out that she's Jimmy the Toucan's daughter, he's like, "Up, Mr. Kellogg, up!" Like time to leave. Like she basically threatens him to like, "My father thinks that he's an A student, an A plus, And she's like, "Come on, let's go." So she has.
Would it have killed her to do a Queen's accent?
I don't know.
Like she don't even try.
I don't.
She just stands there and smirks.
I'm not going to continue to discuss Penelope Ann Miller in this awful
She's a
film performance here.
drag.
So they end up going out to this gourmet club, and on the way, Clark tells Carmine that, hey, look, these Fish and Wildlife guys have come to see me. They want me to set you up. He informs them that they're not legitimate. They're actually on the take from another crime, the Bonelli crime family. And after they're done with Clark, they're going to kill both of them. So I guess it's en route to this gourmet club that they devised this plan to con. It appears that Carmine is also working with the FBI. It's ludicrous. It really is.
The last half hour of this movie is a total fucking mess.
Revisiting it now, I expected things would be a lot more clear as an adult, and they weren't. In fairness, this really should have just been like an Almost Cult Classics video that I did, because I can be a lot more concise. It doesn't have to be discussed in depth. I can just say, hey, Bruno Kirby, he's really good. I recommend checking it out. You can find it. This is like to discuss this with you is making me hate the movie, which I didn't want to do.
Hey, that's why I'm here, buddy.
So the kind of fun part of this scene is Burt Parks.
Agreed.
Singing Tequila.
Yeah,
which is.
I didn't realize who it was. Once you see him with the sombrero and the maracas, you go, wait a second, this is a guy. I assumed he was like what's the best way to put it? Almost like a Paul Lynde type.
Yes.
Like he'd be the right corner on Hollywood Squares or something, or he was like a Carson, but before that, like a presenter type. Yeah, and I guess he was
a Don Pardo kind of
And so what he always did the Miss America pageant, apparently.
Yeah, which. Callback in this movie, he sings to the Komodo dragon as they wheel it in.
It's funny.
Oh, there is your Komodo dragon.
Him singing Tequila made me
really funny,
happy. I was just like, oh, nice.
Yeah, some brevity in this movie.
Yeah.
And another scene I love is when Clark is sitting at the table with Vic. And he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, your uncle tells me they want to kill me. He's like, well, we got some for it. He hands him an Italian passport. He goes, open it up.
What is this? Rodolfo Laspari? Clark, I gotta tell you, the odds are pretty good we're all gonna be on a plane to Palermo, Sicily tonight at midnight if we're still walking.
I want to go to Palermo, Sicily.
Have you ever been there?
No, of course not.
Then you really can't make an informed judgment, can you, Rodolfo?
Which is, a Night at the Opera reference. That's the name of the. Surprisingly, Andrew Bergman is of that generation where the Marx Brothers are gods, so we gotta get those references in. The Palermo, Sicily. He's like, "We'll all be on a plane." The Palermo, Sicily. He's just like, I love when he grabs. He's finally started to crack, and he grabs Vic by the lapels, and he's just. Bruno Kirby does this great thing where he's just like smiling, looking around, and I love him in this movie. He's one of those character actors that we just really didn't appreciate.
No. It's a guy you want to put in front of a camera.
Yeah.
You know what? He has it.
And he's terrific in The Godfather, too, which, again, another weird connection that this movie has with that. And so they all go in the kitchen where Larry London is preparing to cook the Komodo dragon. They have the take, which is all of this money that these wealthy people have paid, which is like $350,000 a plate or something like that.
20 mil in the end.
So they take half and they hide half away. And of course, Clark goes out to signal Greenwald and Simpson to come in and raid the kitchen. They have his stepfather Dwight with them. And
why? But that's what I'm saying. Like, you didn't. I'm willing to accept all this dumb shit. Connect it better.
Yeah.
They just didn't even. They were just like, oh, you'll accept it. Hey, look, it's Brando. And I'm like, dude, fuck you. Like,
yeah, there's one of those like, twist moments where I guess like we're supposed to think he actually died, but again, we know it was all at this point. We're starting to know that they were trying to trick the agent, so the payoff really doesn't work. It's not like everyone's like, oh my god, what? Like if all that, I don't know. There was a way to do this better where you could have actually thought that he ended up getting killed. And I think it would have been such a better payoff to see him still alive if that was just sold a little bit better. It just was. It's very sloppy.
Yeah, agreed.
And they come in, they take the money. They Greenwald Simpson rush off, and they get swarmed by the FBI. And the old man set us up with the kid. Like, okay, I guess. And then he has his little redemption moment with his stepfather about how, if I had a stepson, I'd treat him like he was my son.
No, he doesn't redeem. He casts him off. He says, "Leave."
Yeah, that's what he's been working up to.
Okay.
Telling off the stepfather.
Sure.
And he then finds out. This I kind of like. It turns out that they're not eating endangered species. It's all a big con. It's Hawaiian tigerfish and smoked turkey from Virginia.
But meanwhile, the FBI gets those 2 agents, right? There
Asians?
is still agents.
Oh.
Yeah. The two corrupt agents.
Okay.
I thought you said Asians earlier, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
my fucking pronunciations are...
It was too hack even for me. I was like, I'll let it go. But you still have a building full of people doing something illegal, whether they know it or not. And I guess we're going to ignore that because Sabatini...
He's donating the money, and they're going to open up an endangered species wing at the Bronx
mindless fucking
Zoo. And yeah, so cut to Mona Lisa is playing again, sung by Burt Parks, and he's dancing with Tina, and he's like, yeah, so everything this was all, you knew he was my stepfather from the start, and blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't make any sense. This is, again, even for me, when I got to this point, I was like, I can't believe it. I really thought that they tied this up, and I just didn't understand it because I was young.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really work.
I was like stunned.
Yeah.
I literally had to go read afterwards. I'm like, what the fuck happened?
And then it turns out, the marriage thing really confused me because there is no point to having just having him think like, because
she's pushing it so hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is she doing this? The whole time she's on screen, I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
She clearly is not marrying him. So what is, and then.
Yeah. She's like, I'd like to spend a night in your dorm room though.
Okay.
And then, with
your stringy dumb hair.
Brando, Broderick, and the Komodo dragon walk off into the sunset together, and that's the end of the movie. Not a recommend from...
That's a thumbs down from the Rye Guy.
I have here a Blu-ray that was put out This movie was out of print for years. I had a DVD I found at an FYE of all places.
Wow.
But Mill Creek Entertainment has these... They're kind of shitty. They're like retro VHS tape themed Blu-rays. There's never any special features. It's like the only way they can sell these movies is like, let's give a fancy new packaging. And it's a terrible transfer. It does not look great at all. But I just like I'm a movie nerd. I like the retro VHS looking packaging.
Yeah, it's got it.
But yeah, I was surprised by how much this movie didn't hold up.
It was the least surprising thing in the world that it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And like no one remembers it because I'm like, yeah, there's nothing to remember here.
It's a shame too because I think that there are so many good seeds here that there's multiple different movies. It feels like.
Who is this? Oh, look at this garbage here. This little pull line from Jeff Lyons.
Where's he
Enormously funny and wise. He's been around I feel like I've been hearing that name forever. One of Brando's finest performances. I'm giving you a look. And one of Broderick's most intelligent. I'm giving you another look.
I think.
What the fuck are they talking about? Never listen to critics.
I think Brando's great in this movie. I'm not gonna.
It's not bad, but it's just like, okay, you did this before. Like,
I know, but that's where here it kind of works differently. Where it's like, I don't know. Maybe if he hadn't been in the movie, we would have something more. Because it was rewritten after he came along. They had to rewrite it to make it this like. He's based on The Godfather. So all that stuff with Fleabur showing The Godfather might have been added in. Like, imagine if it was someone like Joe Montana or like someone that could have just been more of an imposing mob figure than this, which is like, you read all those stories about Brando and he was just kind of goofy towards the end. Yeah. I mean, even they said that like when they flew into Tahiti to meet with him, they thought it was just big woman on the beach because he had blonde hair from whatever film role he had done. He was just like wearing like a house dress type thing. And they were like, who?
He was the moo-moo guy.
I had more fun researching this movie and listening to Brando's stories than I had watching the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's such a shame that more of his silly side was not captured on film. Because I think he did so much. And it seemed like he genuinely loved comedy and would have liked to do more of it, but he never got the opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I think he's funny in this because of how almost straight he plays it. I think he could have been a great comic actor because of that.
I agree.
Because he wouldn't have been silly or muggy. He just would have... That's sometimes the best is reacting naturally. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it would have been more rewarding to see him in these roles. But yeah, it's a shame that the things just don't come together because it's got a great cast.
It's got an amazing cast. I was excited watching the credits.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh fuck. I'm like, okay, cool. Like this is gonna be a real off like screwball kind of like gangster. Like cool.
Yeah.
What a dud.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still fond of this movie. I'm not going to say that
it's fine.
My feelings of it have changed a little bit, but I still think there's enough fun scenes here. I just wished like they had committed to it either being like this exotic animal gourmet club movie and then this mob New York University film student thing. I don't think they really come together.
You had so much potential there. Like, you know, movies used to do this a lot. It's like a weird rich person's club. And like all the people in that club are being weird and kind of like dancing. Like that shit's funny.
An eyes wide shut kind of
you know, in so many words,
endangered species.
But like like Rosemary's Baby for food.
Right.
Like I don't know. Like
they are because they even cut to that one point. It's like is it a woman feeding a man? Where he thinks is a Komodo dragon. He's just like savoring every bite. And,
but
like,
they're all doing that like 60s,
dancing.
like and like the guy from Cameroon's there, and like, you know, the Asian businessman is there. Like I like that, like that swinging 60s, and then you got Burt Parks up there with the sombrero. And I'm like, where was this the whole time? And then you see like Bergman with the in-laws. It had that zaniness, right? Like, where is the zany here? The movie pulled back every time it should have been hitting the gas, and I just don't. I didn't understand.
So here's a great. Apparently, like we were saying, Brando was not. Brando was very well liked, but he enjoyed practical jokes. He enjoyed just making life for producers. He hated producers, directors, and stars. He was okay with, but he loved the higher ups and messing with them. But he was on set in Toronto, and he called a Globe and Mail news reporter to his trailer and lambasted the production, calling it, quote, horrible, quote, an unpleasant experience, and, quote, a stinker. It's going to be a flop, Brando said. After this, I'm retiring. A week and a half later, Brando recanted his remarks and apologized in a formal statement, citing trying times of a very personal nature. So apparently, like, his daughter was in a car accident at a certain point during production, and like he just, if you had to keep him longer than he was supposed to be on set, and like, you know, film is we've talked about it.
Like I said, there was that absolutely pointless ice skating scene. Apparently, he fell and hurt his neck.
He was pissed about that. He was pretty graceful, I will say that, in that scene for being as big as he was.
A little bit, but once again, it's like you're putting these scenes like, hey, isn't it weird? Like an old fat Brando is ice skating with this woman. Like, I don't care. This is not engaging.
And you have like all these like kids watching from the sidelines.
Was Bruno Kirby teaching a skating class there? Because then everybody's like, all right, everyone out, free skate. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
The thing about this movie, too, is that I don't know the name of the executive that greenlit it, but we've talked about this. It happens all the time. One executive greenlights a movie. He ends up getting fired. His replacement comes in, does not understand the project, kind of really doesn't allow it, like just throws it out on the schedule, doesn't want it to really make money. They just kind of want to write it off and be like, hey, whatever, get this out. That's what happened with this movie. So I don't know if, you know, maybe there are things that were shot that weren't, you know, there is a lot of room, like, to clear up some of these plot holes. I just don't know if that was the case or what happened, but I'd like it for at least being, I don't know how the word I would describe it is. I like that they do have fun with certain scenes. I just wish it came together a little more coherently.
Yeah, me too.
So it was a bummer in that regard. I will still revisit this movie from time to time.
I'll revisit On the Waterfront. I doubt anytime soon I'm going to be watching The Freshman.
And I want to hear you check out Streetcar Named
Desire. I'll watch Streetcar.
Yeah.
I will. If it's all misery and, you know, that's fine. We'll I just couldn't take more melodrama after On the Waterfront.
Yeah.
It's like, and the pace is like turgid in it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
a lot of those older movies suffer from pacing problems like that, just because we're used to such, especially in the, like when the 70s cinema happened, like quick and just rapid fire.
Like, dude, I'm On the Waterfront's like early 50s, right? Mm-hmm. And like Elie Kazan, oh wow, the great Elie Kazan. Like I said, there's some good photography in the film and whatnot, but like there's other things where I'm like, that's weird. And I'm like, Orson Welles was making fucking basically perfect films 10 years before this, so I don't give a shit. Like there's no excuse for these like janky shots and like weird transitions. I'm like, what the fuck?
I don't know if a lot of our listeners are, you know, have experience with classic films or if there's an overlap there, but let us know what you think of that. I would love to, you know, we tend to talk about older films more on like Movie Catch Up or on our Patreon show.
It's not like I'm a guy that like can't watch movies from this era. I love this shit. Yeah. Like I just saw like I've been watching some very old stuff.
Didn't you see Metropolis?
I did.
Yeah. Which is
amazing.
Which is that's something
it's
that
about as old as you can get.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like, parts of it are transcendently good.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, man, if you're gonna act like On the Waterfront's one of the best pieces of cinema ever, it's not. You know.
Well, so when we were discussing
one man's opinion,
what we can discuss following this lovely movie. We came to Fletch, which Andrew Bergman wrote. We're going to talk about The In-Laws, which he also wrote.
And then next time...
Yeah, next time in the show, what are we doing? Because I picked this, so it's your...
I would like to do Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Okay.
Robert Rodriguez. I'm a big fan of that movie. We'll do El Mariachi, Desperado, and we'll kind of focus on Once Upon a Time. And then on Patreon, we'll talk about his other...
Spy Kids 3D.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll talk about his other films, including that.
That was the first movie I ever saw at a drive-in theater.
Is that the one with Stallone?
Yeah.
Is that
I don't know. I haven't seen it since...
I was like, because at that point I was too old for these kind of movies, but I was like, I kind of wanted to
see... I think
see...
Shalhoub is in those movies too. It's got an insane cast.
Yeah, but he plays like 4 different roles. I'm like, I kind of like that.
I'm going to watch Machete. I've never seen that.
We'll get in. I really wanted to love that movie. It's good, but I'm going to revisit like Sin City. I haven't seen that in years.
I've never seen it. So we'll get together on a list and we'll figure out some essentials we're each going to watch.
Planet Terror, I loved. I haven't seen that in forever.
I really haven't seen a lot of, excluding those like goofy kids movies that he did. I haven't seen a lot of Rodriguez stuff.
And like I said, I'll get into because he's a big proponent of digital.
And did he do?
We'll get into that versus film.
He did obviously From Dusk Till Dawn, which we could talk about a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah,
some of those always gets great casts. Solid ensemble in all his movies. So that'll be fun to discuss.
I don't love his stuff always, but I have a lot of respect for him. So we'll see.
Cool. All right, we'll talk about that.
Get into that.
And then, we're going to keep this conversation rolling for our Patreon show, which you can find at patreon.com/almostcultclassics. Big catalog now, a big back catalog for only $5 a month. You get a lot of stuff. So to those of you that do support us on Patreon, we appreciate that, and we'll see you over there for the show. And to those of you that don't, we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening.